Fiction is my creative muse for business, for family, for life. Welcome to Homemade. I'm Shannon Cason. I remember being at my babysitter's house. She wasn't really my babysitter. She was just a neighbor who was a couple of houses down who would watch me when my mom had something to do. Miss Clinton. I saw her just the other day when I went to my neighborhood to visit. She would make jello with fruit cocktail in it. And I'm not big into jello. I could take it or leave it, but hers was pretty good. I took it. I'd be bored and I'd ask her to go outside and play. And she said, "No, I'm resting. Go watch TV." She didn't want to let me go and play. I guess she was supposed to be watching me for my mom. But cartoons are off, Miss Clinton. I'm bored. Well, go read a book or something. Leave me alone. I'm resting. Reading is boring, Miss Clinton. But by then, she would just ignore me. And I'd sit in the kitchen and I'd eat more jello until my mom came to get me. I remember my mom taking me to the library, and it almost felt like a punishment. She'd be skimming through these big stacks of books, and she'd tell me to go get some books so I can bring them home too. I'd get a few astronomy books because they had pictures of space in them. They reminded me of comic books. Then I'd beg her to leave. "Mom, can we leave? I'm bored. I'm bored." It was boring. Libraries are boring. See, as a kid, I wanted to develop my skills at jumping ramps on my bike, playing basketball, going to Pepper Creek to catch garter snakes. This is before I noticed girls. That happened as a teenager. Then girls would occupy all my thoughts. But up to that point, garter snakes were a big deal. My uncle and aunt had 9 kids. So I had 9 cousins, 4 boys and 5 girls. Going over their house was pandemonium. It was pranks, races. I went in the house from playing tag and I saw my older cousin Mary in her room reading a book, and she was like halfway through it. I'm like, "What you doing, Mary?" And she looked up over the top of the book with a smirk, like, "What does it look like?" "How long it take you to read all that? I think that's like all the books I ever read in just what you read so far." Couple of days. She could read a Stephen King novel in a few days. Those books are like this. That's impressive. "Aren't you bored? We were playing tag. Don't you want to play?" She looked up over the top of her book with that annoyed look of any person who was being disturbed while they're in the middle of reading something good. And she said, "Shannon, books are boring, and it's okay to do boring things. It's okay to be boring." And she went back to reading, being bored. That was an incredible revelation for me. I remember that moment. It was like a smack in the face. It's okay to be boring? Wow, that's a new concept. All this time trying to be accepted by being the best at sports, almost killing myself on these ramps on my BMX. I don't even like snakes like that. You mean it's okay to be boring sometimes? I hope I'm not boring you with this story, but even if I am, like my cousin Mary says, it's okay. That revelation sent me on a journey. I still jump ramps on my BMX, but I read Encyclopedia Brown by Donald Sobel. I still played basketball, but I read novellas by Steinbeck, Hemingway, and Salinger. I went to college and yeah, I would chase girls all while I was reading crime fiction by Elmore Leonard and Walter Mosley. Then I graduate college and I become a professional. I don't ride my bike as much anymore. Basketball is an occasional hobby at best. My friends become Facebook friends. My life is meetings, clients, and coffee and lunch and beer. And it makes me a pig. And not in the Orwellian sense, because I'm not reading Orwell. I'm not reading fiction at all. My reading is professional, nonfiction, self help. How to be a better employee, how to be a better salesperson, how to be a better leader. Nothing wrong with this kind of reading. But after reading a small library of nonfiction self help, I'm molding myself into a cog, a gear, a lever. It's like this. After I spent about 7 years reading only New York Times best-selling nonfiction business self-help, I'm everyone. And being everyone is what's really boring. Being everyone doesn't make me a better employee, salesperson, or leader. Being everyone neglects the world of the real me. Being everyone is boring. I remember I went to Borders. You remember Borders, the bookstore? I had picked up my first fiction book in a long time. I was a facility manager at a plumbing wholesale in Chicago, and I looked past all the leadership books, all the sales books, and I picked up Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. And there was a blockbuster movie with Will Smith that was being promoted. And I like Will Smith. I still like Will Smith. He okay with me. And the book was short. I like short books, not too much boredom. And I bought it on a whim. I read that short book in a week. Then a few months later, I saw the movie. The movie was good, but something was missing. The story from the book was more bleak in my mind. I like Will Smith as an actor, but the character in my mind was more real. The zombies in I Am Legend, the movie, amazing special effects, but my mind had created vivid nightmares rooted in my own fears of a zombie apocalypse. And we're definitely getting a zombie apocalypse. It's definitely coming given our current circumstances in the world. It should be upon us any day now. So, seriously, I admonish you, prepare yourselves. I'm laughing, but I'm serious. The story sparked a creative wick that hasn't stopped burning, and that's reading, specifically fiction. Fiction is my creative muse for business, for family, for life. I was in my living room and there was no music, no TV, just me reading a book. And my daughter walks in and she plops on the couch. What you doing? What does it look like? Aren't you bored, Dad? And I tell her, like my cousin Mary told me, I'm not bored. But even if I was, it's okay to do boring things. And I changed it up a little bit. I said, doing boring things will help you never become a boring person. It's okay to be boring. She's older now and she loves reading just like me. She's boring just like her dad. But as you know, I know, and now she knows it's okay to be boring. I'm always interested in new fiction to read. I love crime fiction, but I read anything. Like I like Elmer Leonard, Walter Mosley, Ken Bruin, Ed McBain, Richard Stark, but I read anything. So if you have any good suggestions on books, crime fiction or otherwise, shoot me a note or leave it in the comments. Let me know. And thank everyone for listening. Appreciate you.
Mm, mm, mm. Now that's homemade.